So hello everyone and welcome. It is great to gather after a long time. Before we get started, I'd like to share a bit of news with everyone. So Persis and I would like to introduce Ms. Nazanin Sarkari. She's not here with us today because they were practicing for the North American Congress program. So unfortunately, she can't be with us, but she's the Fezana Religion Education Committee resource team leader. She will be contacting your centers or some of you individually to help us stay connected with both religion teachers and member associations. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank and welcome her. So we also would like to invite all of you to join us for an amazing talk by Professor Henkelman about the courts and states of Achaemenid royal women on Saturday, October 19th at 8 a.m. Pacific time and 11 a.m. Eastern time. This talk is for everyone interested in the subject, so please spread the word. It would be great if you could help us add to our Google group the religion teachers in your area who are not part of the group. All they need to do is email us, and our email is easy, education@fezana.org. Just a reminder that the age-appropriate lesson plans are available on our website. It was really fun making them with both religion and accredited teachers across North America. They are available for everyone's benefit, and we plan to add more as time goes on. So feel free to visit our website and take advantage of the resource. Our website is very easy, just like our email, fezana.org/education. The oral history project is a big success, both among the high schoolers and community members. 3 more interviews were recently published, and Persis will talk more about it, but email us if you'd like to participate in this project. Now we get to today's scoop. We had many Zoom gatherings and virtual workshop presentations during the pandemic, which were very well received. However, it has been a while since we gathered, and we hope to get back on track and have these gatherings on a bi-monthly basis. There are many great projects and programs happening in religion classes across North America, and it would be great to actively connect with the teachers by taking a tour of all the Zoroastrian communities and highlight one community at each of our gatherings. It will give us an opportunity to get to know and learn from one another, incorporate shared ideas in our local classes, foster collaboration, and build stronger connections between religion teachers. Today, we're starting with Chicago because, first of all, Persis is on board there, so it was an easy place to begin. In addition, they are one of the communities that have been able to build a strong group of high schoolers by offering leadership programs in addition to other projects. We would like to highlight your community at our next gathering, so please email us or type in the chat if you'd like to share what your religion classes are doing at our next gathering. Without further ado, I invite ZAMC religion teachers to give us a taste of Chicago Center's amazing program. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Artemis. Thanks a lot. Really, it's been a lot of fun putting this together because I think many of us have been working through the year to do a lot of different things, not really thinking about, all the things that happen. So it was a lot of fun sort of going back a year and seeing what we've done over the year. But like Artemis said, our goal with these meetings is really to sort of share to maybe spark some interest and then hopefully spark some collaborations as well, because I think we're all always looking for new ideas and new projects and new things. So it would be wonderful to sort of see what everybody's doing and how everybody's doing it. And if we could get into more of a routine of doing this more often, I think that would be a really, really vibrant community of educators all throughout. So thank you for being here today as we get this started. And let me share my screen. I am really fortunate to work with a wonderful group, a wonderful team of teachers here at Chicago. And this last year, we've really been fortunate to be blessed with several events that some of which just fell into our lap, which was really great, and some of which we really designed from scratch. And so it was really nice coming together and working as a team to sort of get our children and youth more engaged with what was going on. But I know Artemis's idea was to sort of get everybody to see what's happening at each of the centers. And so I'd kind of like to begin with just our team. This is our team. We do have a really interesting group of kids now. We tend to have, typically on any religion class, we run our classes once a month only at our center. But every religion class, we consistently now have about 30 to 40 kids showing up, which is always a fun number to have, especially given that Chicago itself is not a very big community. But it's lovely to see that our kids do come, more often than not. And so we are able to kind of break our kids up into these developmental groups where we have 5 of us really working with the kids very, very closely. So now the kids and the parents, they know who the teacher is going to be depending on what age the kids are at. So I have Persis God. She couldn't be here only because her kids, she's celebrating her kid's 15th birthday today. So I said, that's more important. So she has to be there. But Khurshid's here. You'll hear from her a little. Shara is here. She works with our middle school. You'll hear from her as well. And then Zenobia and I, work closely to coordinate all of this. And then I also work with the youth. And so you'll hear a little bit from all of us today. So thank you for being here and being willing to interact with us on this. Before we jump into some of the really fun things we did this year, we've over the last 10 to 12 years, I think, we've made a conscious effort to have a framework for the work that offer all the religion education work that goes on at our center. And we have 2 frameworks that we are constantly keeping in mind as we're working with. One is, of course, we want our classes to be developmentally appropriate. And that's why we design the curriculum, the classes, the lessons to be as developmentally appropriate as possible. And so we have the littlest groups who tend to focus more on concepts and beliefs. As they move into those late elementary years, they're focusing, along with concepts and beliefs, they're focusing on practices, ceremonies, festivals, prayers, right? All of those things that we do. Middle schoolers tend to focus on all of that, but the primary focus becomes history and building a really strong Zoroastrian identity. And then our high schoolers, for our high schoolers, we realized a few years back that as kids were going through all of this, we often had a mass of kids coming regularly. And then, of course, as kids go to high school, I think that's something that many of us face. The engagement goes down, they get busy with so many other things. How do we get them coming? We were seeing that they weren't showing up. And so as a result, we kind of decided to pivot and try something very new for our high schoolers. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But no matter what we do, we're always sort of driven by this 3-legged stool metaphor, which is we're always trying to help our kids understand about our religion, about who they are, their identity, and then also kind of how they connect to everybody around them. So these are things that we're constantly sort of keeping in mind for everything that's happening. With that, going back to that high school group, as we realized that their engagement was sort of dwindling a little and we wanted to make sure that we weren't losing them, we decided a couple of years back to start what we call Zelda, which was just a cool name that they came up with, right? Video game, all of that. But the goal was to for it to be a leadership academy. So we didn't want to do religion classes the way that they had been doing all along, because obviously that was not interesting for them anymore. Instead, what we started focusing on was really an academy that sort of gave them a holistic educational experience, right? So it wasn't just come to class and listen to the teacher. It was much more project driven at this point. So we wanted to give them more leadership opportunities. We wanted to give them more opportunities to design community service events, not just follow events that we set out for them. And we wanted them to feel that there was not just an abstract value to doing this, but we wanted them to be able to see some tangible value as well in being really connected to ZAMC. So that's when we started this Zelda Leadership Academy. One of the things that was very new that was not being done earlier was this idea that as high schoolers, obviously, what's primarily on their mind is thinking about next steps, thinking about college, thinking about other things. And we started thinking more carefully about how can we support those goals for a high schooler. So one of the things that we did was start looking at trying to understand what their goals are, what they want to do, and how can we find those supports for them from within the community so that they see our community as not just a religious or a cultural group, but as people who can tangibly be there and support them. And so we actually matched our high schoolers with a lot of adults in the community who were so generous with their time. They came and they did career panels with us. We got them mentoring opportunities. So we had a high schoolers doing internships at state senators' offices, at an eye doctor's office, at a physical therapy clinic. And so these were things that I was able to set up for them based on their goals, just working with our community members. And, we all have such a wealth of professionals in our own community. It's really not that difficult to sort of tap into that, but you just need someone to sort of do that. And that was something that's worked really well. And that's kept a lot of our high schoolers coming. Even the ones who went to college this year, they regularly came all the way until they left for college, right? And so it's really it was something that definitely worked well. And so we are really focusing on all of these things. But I'm going to stop talking about so we started thinking about, okay, what have we done over the last year? And we realized that every kind of summer, fall, winter, spring, right, we had a big project around which we kept our youth and our children engaged. And so we're just going to share with you some of those projects because some of them could be very easily kind of translated in any context. So we were really fortunate last summer that in Chicago, we had the Parliament of World Religions, which was a fantastic opportunity for our youth to get involved in. We really pushed them. And so we had youth who were participating in panel discussions. We had youth who were manning the children's booth, and they were just so excited to talk about Zoroastrianism to people outside who had never heard about Zoroastrianism. So for them, that was a very exciting thing for them to do. And then all sorts of sort of cultural exchanges, right? So that we were lucky that it fell in Chicago and we were able to get our kids to do that. But I would like Khurshid, I'm going to hand it over to her to talk about a very special project that will happen during that parliament. That was really, really fun for everybody. So Khurshid, if you don't mind sharing that.
Hi, everybody. So, as all of you know, the Parohar itself is a very important symbol in our religion. And people were already planning panels and paper, some research paper and things like that. But I really wanted to connect people all over the globe because it is the world's religions. And so I sent out a call through Fazana to request people to send me on index cards their message to the world on the theme of defending freedom and human rights, but with the Zoroastrian message. And so initially I didn't get much of a response and I was a little bit disappointed. I was like thinking, how am I going to put this together? But then I kind of spoke to a few people and urged them again in the next meeting and the next meeting. And they were like, I never heard of it. I said, well, we advertised it through Fazana, but maybe people don't read everything, right? So anyway, then I got a lot of postcards from a lot of children, and it was not restricted to children. So even adults from all over the world. And then I pieced it together on the wings of the furor, the good thoughts, good words, good deeds theme. And I tried to keep that within the 3 rows. And then I also chose to use, you can see 2 Ziploc bags on either side. So I chose to offer some index cards for the public to send their messages back to the world. So I wanted it to be a little bit interactive. So Darius, who's sitting in the front, he helped me to kind of, put it together, like what goes where kind of thing, because when you get so many index cards, you have to think about what you'll do. Arzan actually helped me with the paror itself. And, eventually then when we reached there, we realized, oops, how are we going to hang this? And so it takes a village. Everybody was involved. It turned out to be a gorgeous project. There were beautiful cards and little drawings from little children. I particularly liked one, which I don't think Persis has shown in these. Yeah, of a Dasturji praying to the Adarsh, like a tiny stick figure. But it was very sweet to get these. And even if they were universal themes of peace and love, it doesn't have to be just, good thoughts, good words, good deeds, but whatever people sent, we kind of pieced it together, and it came together wonderfully. And I think I wanted to do something creative for the Parliament, and I think I already have an idea of what to do next if it ever happens again. I'll just be requesting more participation. So thank you, Persis, and our community, of course, particularly came together to help me do this. And then we still have it actually in our Derby Mayor, hanging in our Derby Mayor. I had folded it and put it away, but I think they liked it, and they've displayed it in one corner of our Derby Mayor. So we still have it. And if you ever come to Chicago, I think Xerxes has come, Artemis has come. I don't know who else on this call has come. Please go take a look at it and enjoy the messages from all over the world, Zoroastrians from all over the world, particularly the children's pictures, to all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Khurshid. Yeah, this was definitely a labor of love. And yeah, Zenobia and I couldn't let it just hang in the closet for sure. So it had to be out there. And it's a lovely addition to our center. The kids love it because it's their work on it. And it's really kind of, very doable and very visible. And so really lovely. Thanks, Khurshid, for sort of getting the kids, everybody coordinated on that, right? Which was great, which was a great summer project, because we had told the kids that we were going to get very active this year. Like it wasn't going to be anymore, just come and listen in class, right? You're going to be involved in a lot of things, which then took us to fall. And we thought, they've been really focused on community service, outside, talking to everybody outside our community. We wanted them to take leadership in doing more community service for the community itself. So we had 2, one, we asked them what they wanted to do, because this was the first time they were designing their own community service project. They chose to do something a little bit easier, which was coordinate for the religion class families an event at Feed My Starving Children, right? Where we go and we pack food. And it's a good, 1 hour of sort of working together as a team and, seeing the fruits of your labor. Again, we are fortunate that we have that here, ability to do that here. And so but the good thing was that the adults weren't the ones who were really doing this or designing this. It really was our young folks who decided the date, who decided how to get the people, who decided, who was going to go, and then sort of took them there on that day. And it turned out to be an excellent event, as you can see. So they really got that experience of what does it take to, put something like this together and run with it. And then we had a conference in Chicago, the Society of Scholars for Zoroastrianism, which is usually, academics and all of them. But we decided that it was time for our young folks to be part of it as well. And so they gave a panel talk during that discussion, which was great because there were all these scholars sitting in the audience. And here were our kids talking about oral history and things like that. And it was fantastic for them to give a talk that was more academic in nature. And then once they were done, they went and they actually served food because we had the Patran Bhonu, right? So we were doing like the wedding style Bhonu and all of that. And so they actually went around in the rows serving the food. So it was a very much, again, a sort of youth-driven service evening, which is always lovely to see. And that's Zenobia's son and my son in the center. They were having a good time, even though it may not look like. Which brought us to winter, and that's when we all need a little love. So I'm going to turn it over to Shara because this was one of the big projects that we did this year.
So thank you for organizing. This is really lovely to see all of it come together, as you said, Persis. And so I had 16 at the time, middle schoolers, and we left it to them what they wanted to do. 4 of them decided they wanted to do the Feed My Starving Children, which Persis just talked about. 50 people showed up to go and be in an assembly line and make these packets that were shipped off to places that needed it. And there was another 6 young ladies of the group who decided they wanted to put on a Valentine's Gala. And so we asked them, well, what does that look like? What are you envisioning? What do you see? And so they put together this idea, and we said, well, let's take it to the board and see what they say. And so we took it to the Zoroastrian board. They actually had to create like a Shark Tank type pitch with slides. They had to create a budget. They had to decide, what games. It turned out to be, in the end, a very amazing event. And so they had to pitch, and then they actually, we helped them coordinate. They basically used Zoom and texting. That was their methods of communication. And this is, again, the time when you see them losing interest. I saw my own son starting to lose interest. And so having these kind of activities, I remember asking them what they wanted to do, and one of them said, I want to be a campaign manager. And I said, oh, that's great. What are you going to campaign for? And he had no idea what he was asking for, but he was really excited to take some leadership role. And so this was a way of engaging them. So they basically did the entire thing. And if you move to the next slide, we had each youth was responsible for something different. One was responsible for food, and she talked to the caterer, who actually catered an entire Italian meal for us that evening. So we had conversations. First, we said the youth has to talk to the caterer, and we talked to them separately. And then eventually we had a 3-way call. Calls were not in their wheelhouse. That was not something normal. They don't pick up the phone and call. So that was a new thing. And but in the end, what you see is, and you'll see the budget person was partnered with the Zoroastrian treasurer on the board. And then the decorations and entertainment people were partnered with one of the designers, someone who was a carpet designer within our community. And so there were all these partnerships, and a way of, they wouldn't normally go and talk to these adults. And so it was a great way of showing them how they can move to experts and gain the information that they need for their needs. And in the end, you'll see the results were quite amazing. We had 98 attendees. That's huge for Chicago. It's equivalent to a Navroz function for us. There were 14 sponsors who agreed to provide, sponsorship of something, money, donations, whatever it was. And, there was the budget. And again, we asked them to present this again back to the board. So go and tell them the summary of what happened, how much. Originally they had planned, they wanted to make $500. They made $2,066. And the original intent was to, this was meant to, for to build classrooms eventually. This was their contribution to the facilities, because right now we teach in a huge cafeteria style with one stage. It's acoustically very difficult to have classes there, but we do. And so this was their motivation, was for classrooms eventually. So that was their portion of providing some kind of contribution. So this was the event. I don't think they realized they were capable of doing it. They were amazed at how difficult it was and how much time it took, but they were also amazed in the end that they could pull it off. And they did things that, probably some of us adults many adults have never done this, and they used Google Forms to get sign up that went straight into a spreadsheet. They even asked for what's your song request in that Google form. They were able to do QR codes to get volunteers. So they were also using, their own, and they presented this slide deck came from them, this whole, Valentine's theme. So all of this was from them.
Yeah, this was definitely something they didn't expect to do. But yeah, I would not put hearts on my slide deck for sure. So that you can make out this is definitely them. But yeah, it's just been such a source of pride for them too. And Shara really sort of brought it out in them that they were able to do that. So now we have the next group already asking us, what are we doing now? And so they have all sorts of ideas for a barbecue, cookout, things like that. But it is a bit of work, so you have to be careful how many you can handle in a year. So we decided we're sticking with one in a year is more than enough. So this is definitely something that was really interesting, which then brought us to spring, and that was again the Fizana AGM that happened in Chicago, where we had to put together something interesting for this large group of people who came from all across North America. So Zenobia, if you don't mind taking us into that project, that was a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Persis. We, as many of you know, we had the Fizana AGM in Chicago, which was another kind of thing, that kind of event that fell to us that year, in the same year. And we took the opportunity from the religion class side to hold our youth fair in conjunction with the Fizana AGM. On the Saturday evening of the Fizana AGM, we did this youth fair. And this is the second time we held the fair. We're so extremely proud of the kids. So they put so much work into this. As you can see, they essentially, it was kind of like a science fair. We had booths set up, and the kids, the visitors would walk around the room and take a look at their projects. The kids worked on preparing the projects 2 or 3, maybe 4 months ahead of time. We started, they worked with the religion class teachers, picked a topic of their own choosing. You can see many of them, the projects were on Persepolis, that model there. They had Amesha Spentas. They had something about the meaning of some cardinal prayers. They had, and this model in the bottom left there, one of that group did a study on the Navar ceremony. So they interviewed some people that they knew that had gone through the ceremony, and they came up with this absolutely wonderful model. You can't even tell how nice it is, but they really put a lot of work into it. And we included all ages. Well, the previous things that we've been talking about, those activities were a little bit for the older kids. We also included our youngest group in this project fair. And you can see them in the upper left. They're the entire youngest class from preschool up to maybe 2nd grade. They did a whole project, a group project together, all 8 or 9 of them. And they pulled together some pictures. The topic was SACE, this SACE ceremony, and how you use a SACE. They talked about all the items on the Parsi SACE, and how you would use the SACE in happy occasions. And at the end, they even had sample cups of Die and Save, which was really, and they handed it out to all the guests, and it was just really nice. So it was something that I encourage, if you can, encourage any of the associations to kind of get your kids to do this kind of thing. It didn't, one of the best things was it encouraged this intergenerational dialogue between, you know, the older people in the community would all walk around and actually have a real dialogue with the kids. And it's such a treasure to have that. And to encourage that dialogue, we, at this fair, we made up these sheets. We asked each of the teams to come up with a question, and we put that all in one sheet and encouraged all the guests and visitors to go and find the answers to all the questions. And then anyone who filled out their sheet, we put into a basket, and there was a drawing for a prize that evening. But the fun of it was just to encourage people to go around and interact with the kids, and the kids just loved it. You know, we're proud of them, and they felt proud. They realized that they, you know, all the projects were just really nice, and they were very, I think it gave them some confidence. So that was, we really encourage any association to try something like this. And if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to help you and give you some guidance on how we did it.
Yeah,
thank you,
we've done
Persis.
this before, right, Zenobia? And
Yeah.
it's been lovely for the community to see. And the really neat thing is also we use a few of our religion classes to do this project work.
Yes, exactly.
And so it becomes something new that they're doing in class as well. And that's been really helpful too, as they're working on the projects in class and things like that. And of course, Artemis won the quiz, so I remember that. So that was another really interesting thing that our kids did, which brought us to the last ending, which was this summer 2024. And summer is again a time when we get less engagement because we don't have religion classes during summer. We shut off in May, and then we don't really meet for religion classes in June, July, and August. So, but we are always looking for ways to keep them still coming and engaged to our center. So this year we had two big summer projects for our high school, for our older kids. One was the intergenerational oral history project. I won't talk too much about it because I think many of you are aware of it. But this is something that Artemis and I started in 2023. In our first year, we had 12 interviews completed. We're just so excited. 6 of them are already published. So you should have received that, a notice through Fazana. And it's just so wonderful to just see those stories and listen to them. And it's beautiful. And just in case, you don't have to look for that announcement either. It's all on our website, right? So on our education website, if you just go to oral history, it will take you right here and you can listen to all the recordings. It comes with the transcripts. Everything is there. It takes us a while to get it out there because there's just so much back work that happens, but our youth are trained to do this. So anytime a young person says they want to do this, the training is already there. So we have training videos they can use. I personally train them. I am a qualified qualitative researcher. I've done interviewing projects, written my own book on interviews and all of that. So I have the expertise to do that, but just working with me can get boring as well. So this summer, what we did was we got, and this is what I'm hoping to do more of in the future as well, is to get as many other experts connected to our young folks as possible. So I got the director of the Oral History Center at the Chicago History Museum to come to our ZAMC and then train our young folks in doing this project. So if any of y'all are interested in doing this at your center, even if it's one kid or 2 kids or a whole group of kids, please do connect with us. We have all the resources that we can use. And once, that interest is there, we can decide, how much effort the teachers have to put in versus, what we can do. We can do it all. We can do as little about it. We can get you connected with many different experts through Zoom, things like that as well. And obviously, this looks brilliant on your children's overall, resume, apart from the fact that the amount of learning they get from it, right? Listening to stories of people, even people who they know, even if it's their grandparents or parents or things like that, they've just told us over and over again that I thought I knew their story, and yet there were so many details that I didn't, right? And so if any of you are interested in this, just reach out to Artemis and myself. We've got all the resources and materials ready to go now, and we can jump in and sort of work with you for anybody who's interested. So please keep that in mind. We're always looking for new people. And then I'll end with our biggest project of the year. This is the last thing that we did over summer. It was a big community service project in cooperation with a nonprofit organization. And so Zenobia, if you don't mind ending it for us with this.
Sure. Yes, we did this project with a group called Bringing Joy. This was, what age group? It was kind of middle school, and then older up through high school, that group of kids. And what we did was this group, Bringing Joy, makes these packets, and they are given to people who are going through a cancer diagnosis. And these are just filled with a gift card, $10 gift card to Amazon or something like that, some tissues, some chapsticks, some other, maybe lotion, I think was in there. And then we put this little card in there that just said, best wishes from the youth of Zoroastrian Association of Chicago. And one thing that happened was we asked the kids themselves to do the fundraising for this project. So we didn't know how many packages we were going to make in the end. It really depended on how much money we gave. But we gave the kids a goal of it was either $100 or $200. 100. And some of them just blew us away and made $500, $600, and everybody came in at the $100 mark. Everybody met the goal. And the really fun thing was the kids, as we said, they raised the money themselves. And some of them really went, some of them went and asked their grandparents, or, of course, raised the money that way. But then there were others that took it, we asked them to do anything, maybe a lemonade stand or something. And some of them drew little pictures and sold those or gave those to people who donated them money. And it was really, they did some really creative things, and that was really fun to watch. So after everything, we collected $3,500, which was we were able to make a whopping 277 gift bags. So we were way exceeded our limit and our goal, which was really exciting, and the kids were very excited. So we gathered one day in July and had all the supplies in our center, and had a kind of assembly line and loaded the bags up. So the kids were involved from raising the money all the way to getting the bags prepared. And then a few of them dropped off the bags at the Bringing Joy Center, their office. And the one thing, and then I think a few of them were able to go to the actual 3 or 4 hospitals that we were dropping off making these bags for. We were not able to interact with the patients on this privacy issue, but we were able to drop them off to the cancer center in each of these hospitals. So that was kind of really kind of close the circle for the project. And it was a fantastic project, and I hope that we get to do it again next year. We learned a lot by coordinating everything, and the kids did a lot of the work. They did most of the work. on this. So that was yeah, go ahead.
And I'll jump in because I don't want to forget the two youth who really took the leadership on this again. So Zane, Damania, and Johan Gard really were kind of spearheading that effort, coordinating the money and, you know, all of that, which obviously takes a lot of time and effort as well.
Right. One thing we're trying to do this year is really encourage the kids themselves to take lead on these projects. We could do it ourselves, but we want the kids to have that experience. And I think we really got them to get going on it.
Yeah.
It was a great project.
Thank you, Zenobia. And that's all. That's what we have, you know, we had to share. Like I said, a lot of things just fell into our lap this year, and we just said we have to do it. But then there were other things that we were very, very intentional about getting our youth more engaged in. And we're hoping to sort of continue that trend. Some good things about this is that we don't have to be the ones doing this all the time. Like you saw the Bringing Joy project, because it was successful, we had another parent come to us and say, could I do my project next year? Because I have a personal connection with a particular charity, and that was great. So now she'll be leading that project. So I think those kinds of collaborations are what we are always looking for. Ramak, yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I just had a couple of questions toward the end, if there's time.
Of course, go for it. Let's
Okay,
go for it.
Great. So thanks for sharing. This is great. And just wanted, based on you guys' experience, you've done this for many, many years, and we are just almost in our second year doing this. How do you connect with your older students and even younger students? Because we're kind of finding it a little challenging to communicate, and we don't know what's the best platform to make that communication. Are you guys finding it easier to communicate via emails or WhatsApp group, text group? What's the best way? And then how do you do that? Does just the high school teacher is in that group communicating, or is there a group of like teachers that communicate with older students and younger students separately? I guess I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for what's the best way of communicating with different age groups.
Yeah, I can talk about the oldest one because that's the group that I work with the most. Email is completely out. They do not check email. They do not want to respond to email.
Okay.
It is absolutely something that has not worked at all.
Okay.
And as a professional, that is just so hard, right? But they've told me over and over again, email out. So, and now what happens is if it's a long correspondence that I need, I will email, but it's the WhatsApp group that's the most helpful.
Okay.
So my group of high schoolers, they know that it's only them and me. And so I've told them that I'm not involving their parents anymore.
Okay.
You know, if I have to, I will. But
Sure.
WhatsApp, they know that if I message them, it needs attention. And then sometimes the message is simply, I've sent you an email, look at it. But the WhatsApp is really important. And I think a lesson that Shara and I learned, and I'll let Shara talk a little too, as we were looking at that Valentine's Day thing, was even that's not enough. We had to sort of set a rule that said, okay, if I send you a message, you've got to give me a little emoji or something saying you got it. So I know that all 12 of you who are in my WhatsApp group actually read my message. And if one or two don't respond back, then I know you may not have seen it. So I'm going to pester you a little bit more. But it's, for me, at least with them, WhatsApp has worked really well.
Right.
And I've not had trouble getting them to respond to me so far, although the Valentine's Day thing taught us these tricks a lot. So Shara, if you have something to add there.
Yes, they use Zoom amongst themselves to coordinate, and I was glad that they did that on their own. And once we had a hard time, that is, you know, sort of overseeing this particular project, we ended up creating a text group, much like WhatsApp, just so that we could keep in touch. But even that, I will say towards the end, we did have to involve the parents. In general, for the middle schoolers, Zenobia is the coordinator, and she'll send out a mass email saying children's class is this day in this month. And if there's any specifics, I'll send her a note, you know, please bring I don't know, like for those projects, we may have said, please bring an iPad or something to do some research. But otherwise, once we had the group of 6 middle schoolers doing the Valentine's Day event, it was really a one-on-one. They would not even, if they hadn't done something, they would not want to say this person didn't do it. They would not call each other out. So it was a lot of dead space where there was silence. I didn't get anything. And then I would have to text that person individually to find out. Sometimes I'd get a response, sometimes I would not. So I would pick up the phone and call. So again, phone calls. And, as we got closer to the end, and this is again, the middle schoolers, we did have to copy all the parents on this group of 6, because it was 2 weeks out and we're not getting information, and they didn't want to say, I haven't done anything. And in reality, they actually were working. It's not that they weren't doing anything, but maybe they felt that they hadn't done enough. And, they've got school and they're balancing, that's all new. They have to balance, their homework and so many other things, along with, finals and tests are going on while we're trying to put on this big event. It's not small. So it was interesting. Once we copied the parents 2 weeks out from the event, we finally I did create also a spreadsheet for them to say just who's doing what task, who's responsible and by when. And it was a shared spreadsheet. That's how I did it in nonprofit corporate world. That's how we track things. They did not use it. They used it after the fact to put down, oh, I've done it. And they would put a check. So I will say communication. And so I will say after this event, we had a whole communication sessions. So we started with public speaking, I have many other things on the list. And so, what is a good way to communicate? You have to actually ask the person, what's the best way to communicate with you? Some use email, some don't. The adults, the caterer, for example, said, I'm in the restaurant all day. I don't respond. You have to text me and tell me, call me now, or you call me. So everyone has their own, method also. So that's, again, trying to teach them. Communication skills, I will say, are a challenge in general, and that is something that I would say should be on your leadership skill list of items to teach. And so I had pulled down a whole like Harvard, communication skills 101, and I was just trying to go through public speaking, how to work with groups, just all of the basics, because there is definitely, they're not used to, and especially with adults, they would not want to interact. I remember, growing up in the 70s and 80s, you had to go to somebody's house and they said, sorry, so-and-so's cleaning up. She can't play right now. And I would say, can I come back after lunch? And they, if they said yes, great, that was a win for me. Or even better is if they said, why don't you come back for lunch? And of course it was peanut butter and jelly, but I was excited, to go there. But this is, these were skills that we learned because we learned to negotiate with adults at a very young age. This is elementary school. And I feel like this generation has missed out in some of the communication skills. And so it's upon us to teach them. And I will say, I learned all my leadership skills at the Zoroastrian Association. I grew up in Houston, and we had a whole, president to historian. And that was our role. We got to be the leaders, the campaign manager or whatever it is that we wanted to do. And I had run meetings, I had agendas, I had all these kinds of things that most kids never had. So it's really a skill that it's upon us to really help them in these, and things are changing. So we have to obviously move with the times.
Thanks for sharing.
Jennifer, go ahead.
No, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. It was really, really helpful. Just one last question. I'll make it very quick. This year, we're trying out the once in a month platform to see how it works. Last year, we did every other week. There were challenges. I won't bore you guys with basically our challenges, but this year we're giving once a month a try to see how the year goes. You mentioned something about July. Are you guys doing all year long, or are you guys taking a break in the summer? I think I heard something about this happening in July.
We take a break in the summer from religion classes, but we try to do other things. Like both the oral history training and the Bringing Joy project, the cancer project, were both summer projects. So
Thank
we tried to keep them engaged for sure over summer, just not in sitting in the class.
Sure.
So we're always trying to get them going over summer.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I am so impressed with your group. I think it's the stuff you guys are doing is fantastic. My name is Nilufar, and Ramak and I are on the Ed Committee in San Diego. And we're very, very new, and we're definitely facing lots of challenges where we kind of are like, I don't know what to do, you know? I have several questions. One of them is, I have 3 questions. One is, I'm always a mission statement girl. Like I always try to take everybody back to the mission statement. Like, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to teach them about religion? Are we trying to just gather and let's get to know our community? What is our mission? So I was wondering if you do have a mission statement. Number 2, I know that you meet once a month. That's the model we have gone to as well, because as Ramak said, things that happen. And if you are doing 3rd through 5th grade prayers, religious and cultural practices, I'm assuming for these activities, you can't finish it in that one, and you probably are not able to do those things that you have listed, which sounds amazing. So do you meet outside as well, like outside that time frame, or is it done at the time that you meet there? So I see you nodding, which is very impressive. So you fundraised at that one session, and then you like go
So
ahead.
no, for the project work, much of that happens outside. Zenobia, do you want to take
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, the project work that we have been talking about, almost 95% of that was done outside of our religion class meetings. The religion classes, we didn't even talk about our religion classes in this presentation, but we meet once a month. There are 4 groups divided by age. And the way that we run the classes, the teachers cover these topics that were mentioned, sort of over those 9 meetings that we have. We meet basically the school year between September and May, once a month. And there's an emphasis, depending on the age group, there's an emphasis on certain topics, like Persis was saying, the history. We have the younger kids, we don't talk too much about history with them. We just cover kind of fundamentals and basic concepts. And the older kids, we're giving them a little exposure to the history. And so it depends on the age group. And we kind of, over those 9 months, cover a pretty large range of topics. It's not all done all on one meeting. And one thing that's worked really well for us is that we meet at 10:30 every meeting, every religion class. And the kids go directly into their age groups, the 4 classes. And then they meet for an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. And then we break, and all of the kids together, all of the age groups go into our prayer hall, and they do great group prayers together with our mabid. So, and that kind of, that's our structure of those classes. And after the prayers, and they usually do a tanda rosti together, and then they do the full Kusti prayers together. The mabid says one line and the kids repeat it. So they go through the whole thing, and it's really nice that they get that exposure. The younger kids see the older kids doing it, and it's very successful, that format. And then after that, the kids get together, and we have a host family each month, and the kids get a snack. Sometimes it's more of a snack, sometimes it's lunch. It just depends on the host. There's no rules on that. But the biggest thing is that they get to sit and eat together and interact, and they go run off and play and, run outside. And it's kind of a social event for them too. So we kind of cover all the bases.
And do you find that the pre-K I think it's pre-K through second grade, you guys have them grouped together. Do you find that they can sit for an hour to do these activities with
Yes.
them? There's no
Yeah.
problem with that?
Yes, they definitely do. And that Persis, the other Persis that we have, she's not on today. She handles that group really nicely. And she has broken it up where she has a lot of video kind of presentation. She reads
So
stories.
how do you, I'm trying to think, how do you do the video if you guys are all, because we have the same setup where we have a stage just like you guys, and then
Yeah.
we have a big hall. How do you do the video thing
So-
with
So
the younger
we're
group?
able-
iPad or?
Can I intervene?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Niloufar and Ramak,
Rama.
both of you are at the early stages. We are talking of what we are doing now. When we were at your stage, I don't think we had all this either. I've been involved for, I think, about 15 years. So don't be discouraged. That's the first thing. The second thing is the children do sit, but the smallest children sit with their parents. And we have divided the space into 4 areas. So although it is one space, we have doors. So they are like
Partition?
different. We don't have official classrooms because we never designed the Derby that way. But it's not like all 4 people are in 4 corners of a room. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I think that's what you're imagining. Imagining it looks like. The second thing I want to say is, for the littlest children, of course, they want to be with their parents initially, especially when they're coming to the early classes. So some of them sit on the lap of the parents, okay? Then they get more independent. With regard to the second group, which is what I know about these 2 groups, they now have to be completely independent from the parent because the space is also very small. There's no place to put 10 parents and 10 children, and they can't be on their lap all the time. So I let the parents stay for the start of the first class, but then they need to leave. And there have been times where a parent wants to be, where a child wants the parent, but you have to gradually wean that away, otherwise that interaction doesn't happen. And with regard to doing everything in the second level of class, in the first level, she does do videos and drawings and coloring and stuff. In the second level, they have to be able to write something. So I usually have a sheet in which they're sort of quote unquote taking notes, and they have a structure. So write this in this blank and write this in this blank and draw this or whatever it is. And I try to stick to that structure to a certain extent because then they are aware of what to do next time. So it's like introducing one concept or one story from the Shahnameh or something, and then followed by one cultural connect. And ending, I personally prefer to end with a language. So I always have a word or 2 words for them to learn in all 3 languages, Gujarati, English, and Farsi. And like seed, apple, safarchan, very simple words. But I believe that language is a way to eliminate a culture or bind a culture. And unfortunately, many people have gotten away from the Farsi because that just happened. They migrated, and now there's a generation that's even got away from the Gujarati, and the children only speak English. There's no Farsi, there's no Gujarati. So I want to bring that back into their lives, even if it's in a very, very, very small way. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents on that. And don't be discouraged by all that. But if they don't respond, believe me, the first few years that's why we don't have a mission statement, because this is all stumble and bumble and learn along the way, and then you develop structure. And of course, Persis and Zenobia and everybody else is involved in it. Like, it's not like this is just a one human's effort, but yeah, you'll get there in 5 years.
Yeah, the
I'm sure
challenge
of it.
we're having is getting volunteers. Right now, the board of directors, Ramak is on it. She's running education committee, and I'm helping, but we don't have volunteers. It's the most difficult thing for us. I think if we do have it, we have a great program set up for our community, but that's one of the challenges that we face. How do we get them? Should we stipend them? These are conversations that we have all the time, and we go in circles.
So, so one suggestion, our volunteers are the parents. So if they
Right.
come, they bring the children. You have to get buy-in. If you
Right.
don't have buy-in for something, if they don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. It's like hitting. So to get buy-in, maybe you can design something very simple for them to achieve by the end of 6 months. Something very, very simple that's 100% achievable, and get the buy-in from the parents. I would not personally encourage the use of stipends for anyone to teach in this level of things, because the money should not be the draw. But I understand in some cases they may be coming from really far and maybe they need commute, whatever. I don't know what it is. But some of our people come from 1.5 hours away. So I personally take at least 45 minutes. Most of us, I think, take 45 minutes. So I wouldn't encourage the stipend thing to the teachers or volunteers, because that would take away from the spirit of things. But I think buy-in is important. But anyway,
and
go
if
ahead,
I may
Persis.
jump in at this point, also, Neelu, when we started, I think it was a very isolating feeling too, several years ago, especially when, Zenobia and I kind of jumped into things. But we were fortunate that we had a really lovely group of older educators who had done this for a while and really sort of allowed us to sort of learn with them, because obviously we didn't know the content. But then as Zenobia and myself started designing this framework and mission and all of the stuff that you're talking about, it is important. It is important to have that in mind, when you're doing things. But initially, it really was just us. And then we started, then Khurshid joined us, and then Shara, and then, Persis and all of that. But we did notice that when it came to parents, there wasn't a lot of help. But where they did help, and helped really well, was things like this project fair that they were really willing to jump into, or plays. We did some amazing, elaborate plays during Nowruz function and things like Zenobia and I would write the script. We'd sit for hours and late into the night and write a whole giant script. And by the way, all of that is ready to go. So if you ever need a script, just reach out to us. It's ready to go. But it's elaborate, and the kids would have to learn their lines and all of that. Again, that's where the parents really got involved and then came together and made the props and just kind of had fun together. And once they started having fun together, we kind of got a lot more of that buy-in going.
Yeah,
so it was a lot of upfront, just us doing everything. But then now we have a good group. And then the lunch that Zenobia was talking about, getting parents to sponsor a lunch during these meetings. These little things help.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you say is then to get the parents maybe involved, see what's going well, and kind of go with that. So we notice that when we have these jashns, jashns, not jashan the prayer, but the party celebration, we have parents involved. Oh yeah, we're gonna celebrate this party.
Yeah, exactly.
So you might
like, what should we do? So it sounds
you might do a play at one of those gatherings, and then you get the kids to practice. The parents will bring the kids, and they enjoy.
Well, see,
it doesn't have to be very complicated.
Well, that's why I was asking you. I feel like it's going to be more than just that 1 hour that we have with the students that once a month. It's going to be outside, where now I have to talk to parents and say, hey, we are doing the play, so come over and spend another hour. And then the kids are like my son, whining, oh, I have homework to do. He's in high school, but
that does come up all the time. Yeah, you have that schedule conflicts all the time, but take little things. Don't try and do the whole thing all at one time. Pick one or two things, and it builds year after year. You'll get there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Vista.
Hi, everybody. This is so wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting us and hosting such a great session. I just wanted to share that so I'm calling from the Orange County, California Zoroastrian Center. And I just want to share that we too are having that issue with parent volunteers, but what we did recently that I thought I'd share, sounds like we're not the only one having that problem in our registration. And if you've already done that, which you probably have, but just doing like a Google survey to the parents and, you know, being upfront and asking, hey, are you available to volunteer? And this way we included it in the registration, and we got a lot of people who are willing and open to volunteer. So then it's like a leeway to be like, oh, you had shared you are open to volunteering. We're actually looking for this, or we actually need help with this. And so it's not like an awkward, hey, you know, it's
Right.
actually a way to bridge that conversation with, oh, you know, thank you so much for completing that and offering to volunteer. But I feel like it's buy-in, and sometimes it's really just reaching out to the students. Currently, I'm part of the Almozish team. I'm also teaching the teen class. I'm one of the teachers for the teen class, and I feel that having the buy-in from the teens is what oftentimes sets the stage, because the younger kids look up to them, right? And I tell that to the teens, you know,
Yes.
that, you know, everyone here is looking up to you. And so they're well aware, and they kind of take that lead. But also when they are there, the other younger ones want to be there, right? And then when they see that they are volunteering, those younger kids are wanting to participate and volunteer more too. But then it's those teens that kind of they want to be there because of their friends, and so they're the ones encouraging their parents to come, it feels, you know, and having their buy-in brings about the parents' buy-in, because then they're involved, like, oh, mom, dad, I volunteer to, you know, contribute this to the class, you know, let's go shopping or whatever. And then that's when they're almost, you know, almost forced into it. So that's been very helpful for us. Hopefully you can, that'll be hopefully somewhat helpful to you as
thank
well.
you.
But you're not alone is all I want to say.
Thank you. Rama Cure has worked really hard with getting exactly what you said. We put in
Yes.
requests for volunteers. We get them. I think every center has their own little challenges. I think that ours is so new. We don't offer Farsi, and I think you guys do at Orange County, and that's a huge issue at our center. We tried what is it called? Pilot. But that we just couldn't support the group because we just don't have the rooms that you guys have for, you know, so we just couldn't get that to happen. And so that is one of our biggest issue, is that many parents want to speak. And in fact, with our Chicago group, I was thinking about that, I wrote it down here. Do you guys have parents that said, no, we want our kids to learn Gujarati, so please speak only in Gujarati? Do you run into that issue, or everybody's like, yeah, English is good, let's just go with it?
No, I think we
No,
have
we
the
don't.
opposite issue where we want them to learn more of the Gujarati and the Farsi, and it's like, no, what's the point? What's the need? We're fine. So no, that's not been. And Khurshid's been trying very hard with that 3rd to 5th grade group to get whatever she can, kind of sliding into those classes of hers. But that's generally, you know, not the issue. Yeah, but here we also have a majority of our population is Parsi as well. Especially the ones who do come to religion class, although that is changing gradually. And we try very hard to bring in multiple perspectives, especially, of course, when it comes to history, all of that as well. So we try really, really hard. And I think I'm always biased towards those lesson plans as well on our website. That's why we have like different perspectives that teachers can use. And then one more thing, just kind of as you were talking about those little kids and how do they keep their attention. I know Persis is not here, but as you know, as an educational psychologist, when she started working, and she was asking me as well, like, how do I do this with these kids? It's 1 hour. How do I work with them? And my advice to her, which is my advice to all teachers, is with that age group, it's not about the time, right? It's about how you can chop that time into different things. And so suddenly, if you're doing 5 different things in 1 hour, they'll stay with you for 5 hours. And she's very good at doing that, like arts and crafts, and then movie, and then a game, and then this, and then that. And so it's a lot of work with that group to keep them engaged for 1 hour. Whereas with the middle ones, it's a little bit easier with just like, okay, let's talk about this, let's discuss this, let's work with this. Of course, you have to keep them interested. But then when they come to high school, we follow the same pattern that we follow for the middle school, for the preschoolers, which is we do a short lesson. So for example, leadership. So what does leadership in the Gathas look like? And then, we talk about that. And then it's a lot of individual teams doing their own things. So it's not necessarily a 1 hour class where all the high schoolers are together for the whole time. So we have some who go and help the other teachers in their classes. We have some who've decided to take on this particular project. So that's what they're working on. And that again keeps those high schoolers coming as well, because they feel like they're doing something that they are personally interested in. So that's something that we've the strategy with the preschoolers and the high schoolers is the same, which as a psychologist makes complete sense to me. But that's worked for us as well.
I think just keeping it as interactive as possible, where
Yes.
the kids are actually actively either doing a project or a craft. The youngest kids, whenever they do a craft, they do it together, and that keeps them, as Persia said, give them little segments of the hour.
Definitely.
And
Thank
it's worked
you.
really well with that even that middle group. Just
Yeah. Get them out of the
activities.
seat, take them outside, continue with
Yeah.
that one objective that you have, and then
Right.
just break it up. Yeah.
And that
Thank you.
is one more thing I wanted to add. I had a thought. If you have one big room, one thing that we had done was, and when in Chicago, we have only a few months where it's nice weather, but we had some of the classrooms go outdoors, and they'd have a space in the front lawn. And then another group would, so you can maybe find some separate spaces if you use your outdoor space also, patio or.
Yes,
No.
we
Bring
just
some
finished
chairs
building a
outside.
patio, so that's gonna start becoming a reality. soon.
Yeah, and in California, you have much better weather than we do.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Thank
that's
you,
it for
everyone,
us.
joining. Yeah, Nilufar, what we did in our center was we spent quite a bit of money, but it was worthwhile. We added 2 partitions in the big hall. So the partitions would go into kind of a section in the wall, and it was like the real thing, soundproof, and it gave us the ability to divide that big hall into 3 different areas that we could use for kids, and also it became useful later on as well. If we rented the hall, they could close one partition and then set up like food over there or whatever they wanted over there, and just use the other 2/3 of the area. So that's, I mean, it was costly, but it was well worth it. That's another option for you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. It was so glad to see everyone, and thank you for joining, and thank you to the Chicago teachers for this great session. If you're interested to present your own religion classes for the next session, please email us. Otherwise, we hope to continue these sessions every 2 months, and we'll hopefully have volunteers to host and get to know all the Zoroastrian communities around North America. Have a great Sunday, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Whatever
you,
is
everyone.
left.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.